Have you laid the necessary groundwork for your 2022 marketing yet? On this episode of the PA System, I'm talking with Joe Mikitish about how to start planning for the next year so that you and your business are ready. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks, Pam.
Great to have you here today. All right, so this is such an important topic, and I know that people can feel a little bit overwhelmed sometimes when it comes to marketing, like they almost don't know where to start. So let's just kind of like start from ground zero in a sense and talk about the first steps that we need to take when we're thinking about planning for an entire new year of marketing.
Yeah, it always starts with the customer, right? So, I would say out of the 100 business owners I meet with, maybe 5 actually know who their ideal customer is. So, getting into the who, what, where, when, why of who their customer is pretty important. That's what I run through with people to start out with. I've got a whiteboard sitting across the room that's actually got that written on it permanently because almost everybody who comes over, I'm like, let's do this first because I want to know who you're targeting. And most of the time,
well, and you've done a lot of training with Grant Cardone, correct?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. And so a lot of what you teach comes out of what he teaches.
Yeah, I mean, much of it, right, that I teach now, as far at least as far as sales is concerned, the marketing side I've been doing long before I met him, but that basic founding principle of who's your customer and what can you help them with should be what everybody's teaching, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Love that. So what does that look like? Like, how do we really, let's dig into that a little bit. How do we really start to get a good feel for who our customer is?
Sure. The way I think about it is a story, right? So we all have that customer that we're really excited when they call. And when the call ends, we're really happy that we talked to them. Who is that person? What did you do to help them out? What do you continue to do for them? What does that relationship look like? So write down that story. I always do the who, right? Who are they? And I always write their real name. Say Bob the plumber, and then I'll write down the story.
Love that.
What do I do for Bob? When did I meet him? Those kind of things. And so I'll write down that story about that. And that helps me identify more people like Bob that I can help. And I try and get all of my customers and people that I work with to write down their story about who their ideal customer is. And it really helps them really identify how to market, where to market, when to market, all that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I love that idea of making it really personal. Because the fact of the matter is, whatever business we're in, we're marketing to other people, right? I mean, this is a human connection that we're creating with someone. And so keeping that in mind can make all the difference. True? Absolutely.
I think that a lot of times businesses, we focus too much on the revenue side rather than on the people side. The people do business with people. Not just to make, shouldn't be just about money, the transfer of money from one bank account to another. It should be, what do we do for them? How do we help them? How do we touch their lives? And in return, what do they do for us? And how do they help us? And how do they touch our lives? We've got to be a win-win for both of us. And marketing should be about that telling that story.
I think that's so powerful too, because it really brings us back to like the heart of our business. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Right? Like, is it really just to make $1? 9 times out of 10, no. We're doing it because it's something we care about. We want to help people, right? It's a service that we're offering. And so getting back to that and being able to say, okay, well, if this is what I want for my business, and I want my customer to understand that that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's lots of things we can do for money. I mean, I could go start any business and create something that makes money, but why do I get up in the morning? What is our focus on? And our focus is how many business owners can we help in a day?
Right.
What we as a team over here talk about every day. How many people did we help? What are their stories before we were involved in their lives, and then while we're involved, and then after, what does that story look like? And I want those success stories. I got text messages this morning from a free workshop I did last week, and people are already saying, hey, I'm up 200% on Google just from the free stuff we gave to them. I love getting those texts first thing in the
Yeah.
morning. It's a little dopamine boost in the morning.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Well, so, okay, so we've kind of, now that we've got this, let's just say it's at least a general idea of who our customer is, then what's our next step?
It's tracking down where did you meet that customer, and can you meet more of them in the same place?
Mm.
So 70% of business that small businesses get comes from referrals. So if that business came from a referral, that should tell you that in order to get more customers like that, you should get more referrals.
Yeah.
If that customer came from Facebook, maybe you should spend more time on Facebook. If it came from a Facebook group, maybe you should spend more time there. If it came from Google My Business organically on Google, maybe you should spend more time on that. So identifying a few of those stories of ideal customers will help you track down where you should spend your time on marketing. Just because you got a customer from referrals doesn't mean you should spend all your time there. Definitely test that with 2 or 3, 4 people. And what I found is you'll identify a pattern. We talk about patterns in marketing all the time, where we're like, hey, look, 70-80% of our customers that we love came from this one area. We shouldn't go then chase the thing that only got 2.3% of our customers.
No,
Don't spend time and money on that thing. Spend time and money on the 70%.
Right. Yeah. I think that's such a great point, because I think there's sort of like this general sense, that, well, you've got to go out and run Facebook ads, or you've got to go out, and it's like, well, maybe you do, but maybe you don't.
Right.
So I think that's a really, really valid point. Now, let's say you're somebody who's just kind of like starting from ground zero. How do you sort of get that baseline to know, where are the best places to look for my customer?
Yeah, with businesses that are starting up, I always tell them, if you're doing business local in your market, you should get out and network and meet people. Mm-hmm. And that'll help you identify it'll help you identify if there's even a market for what you're bringing to the market. If people want what you have, you need to go out and talk to real people, and don't just sit behind a keyboard all day. It's easier to sit over here and prospect on Facebook, but the survey of where business came from for small businesses last year, they surveyed 100,000 businesses. Less than 3% of all business came from Facebook. So wow. Is that going to really drive your business forward when over 70% was from referrals? How do those referrals happen? Going out meeting people. That's right. Yeah. Conversations, need to happen. 91% of all sales happen either over the phone or in person.
And I think that's really, really important, because I don't think that that's common knowledge, number one. But number two, I think it's, like you said, it's so easy to sit behind a keyboard and to focus on these things that we think that we need to do. And we feel like we're being productive when we're doing it. We feel like we're accomplishing things, right? Oh, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. When in reality, maybe we're not. So, and I know that there's been hesitation a couple of years to go out and do some of the things that we may have done in the past. But I know, in particular in our area, there's a lot of networking that's still going on and has been going on for some time now. And so I think depending on what area you live in, it may just take a little bit of effort to sort of go out and find groups that are still meeting and still networking, but making it a point, even if you have to go. I remember when I was in real estate, and, people would come into our offices all the time, with some service that they offered that was, somehow of value to homeowners or people that were, in the search. And so, just getting a little creative around that and figuring out, how do I get out there and connect with people? What are some of the ways that your clients, have found outside of networking events to go out and find new clients?
Yeah, I mean, networking is obviously huge, and that could be, like you talked about, in some parts of the country, people aren't meeting in person still, but they're still meeting on Zoom, right? So if you talk about like BNI, that's right. A huge international organization. And when I was in Miami a few weeks ago, I went prior to going, I actually went on a couple of Zoom BNI meetings and met a few people. That way we were able to connect on Saturday evening and have a beer and do some business face to face. But their group of 90 people didn't meet in person. It was on Zoom. So there is still that opportunity. And then the other thing is Facebook groups for local business is huge.
Mm.
I use it to get, dozens of new customers a month, and it's a good use of my time. So I spend time on there just providing value. I don't pitch my, if you go on those Facebook groups, you're not going to see a whole bunch of Joe's posts about things I'm doing or services I offer, but you might see events that I've got going, free networking events. The most part, I'm on there going, oh, somebody has a question about, hey, I need a new banker, or hey, I need some help with my business, or hey, I didn't register my LLC right, and now I've got a problem. Who can help me with this? And so I try to see myself as that connector and that resource for them. Even if I can't provide that direct service for them, I have nothing to do with that kind of thing, but I can go, hey, here's an expert who can help you with that area, and I connect them together, and that provides a lot of value. And I know that there's like a lot of handyman businesses and plumbers and electricians, and they're all going, how can I do that? Well, you all know people in the trades who can help people. People are always going, hey, who do you know who's a good electrician? And I'll see 4 or 5 people who are also in the trades go, hey, I'm a handyman, I use this guy. Hey, I'm a plumber and I use them. Those type of connections are huge online. And you can run ads, but I think that if somebody's brand new starting up, it's connecting with real people. That's the most critical thing. And pulling those conversations off of social media as fast as you can. Don't just sit there and go back and forth on social media. Pull them into a phone call or a Zoom meeting as quick as you can.
And I think that's one of the things that you are a big proponent of, and I've heard you talk about a lot, but you're also really good at. And that's actually how I ended up meeting you, was through a local Facebook group. And then you had a follow-up networking meeting that you invited me to. And so it's like, don't just take that one step and have a connection, but then not follow through on it.
Right. Exactly. And it's getting those relationships off of the social platforms as fast as you can. If you think about LinkedIn's a powerful, powerful tool. I connected just in the last week with over 300 people on LinkedIn that are all potential prospects for me. Did I send them a message that goes, hey, I can sell you this thing? No, I didn't. But I do have a free event that's coming up that would benefit all 300 of those people. And I, just like I invited you to a networking thing that I was doing, I invited them to an event that doesn't cost them any money, but it's huge value for them. And so, the first thing I always tell people when you're starting a business, there's 3 words you need to know: give, give, give. And that's, as long as you just do that, then, people start recognizing that you're a giver, and they'll start going, how can I help you with your business?
Love that. Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of lose sight of some of those things when you're so focused on sort of the mechanics of marketing. And that's easy to do because when you're new to it, you're kind of just trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I start with all of this? And so you're kind of like immersing yourself and then forgetting that, you can still go out and meet people, and that really does work. So that's amazing. Okay, so we've kind of figured out, all right, well, we've got a little bit of traction. Let's say we've got 1 or 2 people, that we've connected with locally. How do we start to then build on that? How do we start to really organize our marketing in a way that expands that quickly?
Well, it comes down to knowing who your ideal customer is. So if you know who that is, and you can then backtrack it to who your ideal referral partner is. So if your ideal customer is, say you service homeowners, then you want to find people who also service homeowners. So if you service businesses and very specific businesses, maybe you're an accountant and you service a very specific niche, market, then you want to go find people who also service that market. And that's that. Once you get 2 or 3 connections in that space, knowing who your ideal customer is allows you to say, hey, do you know, like maybe I'm servicing HVAC businesses. I would do some pre-research before a meeting with a new person. And if they like me and I think there's some good resonance there, then I would have already seen, hey, the person I'm meeting with is connected to an owner of an HVAC business on Facebook that I want to meet. And I'll go, how well do you know Steve and Cheryl who own this HVAC business? And they go, oh, they're good friends, or I've met them a couple times. either one of those, if they go, I've never met them, I don't even know them, then maybe I wouldn't ask them for a referral at that point, although I would, but if I was new in business, I might not. But I would always ask for a referral. I go, great, I have something I could really help HVAC businesses with. Would you mind doing a digital introduction for me? And that's how I massively expand my network, right? Is every meeting I walk into, I try to get 3 referrals to people that I need. And I've done the research ahead of time. I don't just go, hey, do you know anybody who owns an HVAC business? And then put them on the spot. And their little mental Rolodex, they can't get through enough people to remember that they know Steve and Cheryl. If you've researched that ahead of time and you know they know Steve and Cheryl because they're connected on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, then you can go, please give me a digital introduction. Don't leave the meeting without that digital introduction. Go, hey, could you do that right now? Because I'd love to call them on, as soon as I get home.
Love that. And to know that, when you're doing that, you're actually helping those people too. It's like when you're getting a referral, you never know when those people are going to go, oh my gosh, remember that guy, that one guy that reached out to us because so-and-so connected us, and because they need that service, right?
Right. And go ahead.
And this can happen organically too. I mean, that's something I want people to remember is that, if you're at church on Sunday and, you're like, oh, hey, I was just thinking about so-and-so the other day. I saw something, a post or something they put on your Facebook, and I was just wondering, would you mind sending me a referral? I knew they were looking for somebody, in my space, and it doesn't have to be like a sales pitch, right? It's just kind of like, oh, I saw this person had a need and I can help them out, if you don't mind referring me, sort of thing.
Right. And those really, those opportunities where you're like, hey, I saw somebody. In fact, I was on Facebook about an hour ago and I saw somebody needed my service. Right. And so I didn't know them, but I clicked on their profile and I could see there's about 50 connections in common. I just scrolled through those and found a couple people and said, hey, would you mind telling them that I'm the person they need to talk to about that? And, we had a quick call and we've got something scheduled for next week. So that whole process took under 5 minutes. And that's how I spend most of my time is finding people who need me. Either I'm researching it or I see it, because I've got alerts set up all over the internet to tell me. But I'm more advanced than I've been doing this a long time. Most people just need to start with directly asking for who they want. Directly ask. It's kind of like don't beat around the bush. Don't just go straight for what you want. Just ask for what you want and you'll get it. Otherwise people just don't know and they want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help everybody. Right. And with their business, it's just, if I don't know how to, because they don't ask specifically for the person they want an introduction to. Like when we first met, I'm like, who can I introduce you to help you grow your business? Yeah. Right. And I want to not only be a taker, right? I don't want to just go, hey, these 3 people I want to know. I'm going to ask you who you need to know. And I'll usually come prepared. I'll go, it sounds like you need these 3 people. Let me do those introductions right now for you.
Right. Yeah. And you did. I mean, you did. You connected me to people right away.
Right. Yeah. And that's what people know me for. It's funny. I was speaking to Grant Cardone. I was down in his office last week and he said, how do people see you in the market? And I'm like, that's a good question. That's a good question, and so I went and sat back down and I started texting people. I'm like, how am I viewed in the market? Be honest with me. I had to text people who I knew wouldn't hold back on me. And what over and over people said that they thought I was viewed as a super connector. That's exactly what I want to be viewed as, because I want people to go, hey, I need somebody to help me. Like a guy this morning, he's like, hey, do you know home inspector? I'm not in real estate, but because I'm viewed as that connector, he texted me first and I was able to do a quick digital introduction to a home inspector who immediately responded. They've got something set up for tomorrow because he needed an emergency basis. So that's how I do business. And I think if everybody did business that way, we'd all make a lot more money. If you were focused on how to fill somebody else's calendar instead of your own all the time, your own would get filled naturally in response.
Such great ideas. And, I think if people also look at it as an opportunity just to do something, for me, whenever I get to make a connection, I love that, because it's like, oh my gosh, you have this thing that you get to do for somebody that doesn't really require anything except that you say, hey, you over here, I know what you need, and this person over here has it. You guys have to get together, right?
Right.
And it's like, how much fun is that? So maybe like it doesn't have to be work. Maybe we don't have to look at it like we're working at, our marketing or growing our business. Maybe we're just out there doing enjoyable and valuable things for people.
Right. And that's the way I see it. It is fun. When somebody later tells me, hey, that person you introduced to me came through in a bind, helped me out with whatever it was, and that story keeps me going, and it doesn't feel like work to me. I spend all my day doing stuff that doesn't feel like work. I often tell people, I'm like, I have a real aversion to anything that feels like work to me. Doesn't mean it's not work. It just doesn't. I don't want it to feel like work.
It doesn't feel like it. Yeah. Love that.
And introducing people is like the easiest thing ever. People have a hard time with it sometimes, but you don't have to do anything complicated. The person who needed the home inspector this morning, I was like, hey, business owner, hey, home inspector, you know what to do.
Yeah, right. You guys know how this works.
Yeah, you know what to do. Call each other and do some business. So, yeah.
Well, and that's just it. This should be an enjoyable journey. So when we're thinking about, growing our business, we don't have to have the focus that it's work necessarily. And right. I love that you focus on that's actually sort of a priority in what you're teaching. Okay. So we've created a network. Now what do we do?
Yeah, now you got to turn that network into money, and that's really the, speaking of Grant Cardone is this thing that he always says, but it's came from way before him. I heard it probably 25, 30 years ago. And this phrase goes like this: your network is your net worth. And oftentimes people are like, well, I got to sit here and cold call. That's not your network, and I got to work on all of these contacts on Facebook. Well, that is kind of building your network. But the reality is you probably have enough people in your phone that you can at least make a living. And so, calling people you already know is the most important thing. So as you're building that network, staying in contact with the people who refer you business, so you already established a network. That doesn't mean you've put them into categories, right? So you got A, referral partners. People refer business to you every week. You have B, referral partners who refer to you once a month. And you have C, referral partners that refer to you like once a quarter. Those people you need to call in that same cycle. People who refer to you every week, call them every week. People who refer you to once a month, call them once a month. People who refer you to once a quarter, call them once a quarter. And that's a very organized way to manage your network. And you'll have thousands of people who never refer you business. Well, they're in the D list, which is don't bother with them because they're not referring you business. They're going to waste your time.
Yeah.
And so, you can really only manage 120 relationships. So you need to really focus on those 120 people who are going to refer you business and chase those people down and ask them for exactly what you want. And that's the most critical thing, is to fill in those 120 people as fast as you can, knowing that some people are going to drop out and you're having to constantly put people back in. So.
Well, and I want people to sort of, understand too that you kind of take this a piece at a time. Like, you have given us so many gold nuggets. I mean, just what you've given us in these last 20 minutes would be enough to get somebody rolling in the next 3 months. I mean, couldn't be better timing coming up to the new year, and just get your ducks a little bit in a row. And 2022 could be a totally different year for you. And so I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg, though, and there's a lot more that you teach. So I want people to know where to find you and how to connect with you. And so we're going to put your website up here, doworkuniversity.com. And so for anyone who is listening, who isn't actually watching with us today, I'm going to spell that just so you catch it. It's do, D-O, and then work, W-O-R-K, university.com. So, and then with that, where do we find you on social media?
Well, my name's Joe Mikitish, and my last name is spelled Mikitish. And there's not very many of us. So just look for a guy with a cowboy hat and a mustache, and you'll find me. So I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Alignable. Those are the places you can find me. I do have Instagram, but I'm typically dealing with business owners all day. So really Facebook and LinkedIn and Alignable are the 3 platforms I spend most of my time on. Not that Instagram's not great. It's just, like we were just talking about, spend time and effort, because all you have is time. That's your most finite resource. You could always get more money. You can't get more time. And so LinkedIn is great if people want to connect with me there. I do put out a lot of information they can get into. I do teach marketing, right? So if you have questions and you're starting up and you're like, where do I start? Just send me a message on any social platform and I'll tell me what type of business you have. I'll tell you where you need to start. So I work with over 1,000 businesses across the country in almost every industry. So I can tell you, don't waste your time on these 3 things. Go spend your time on that.
Love it. Well, this has been fantastic. And there's a lot more where this came from. We're going to do a few more of these as the year goes on. But I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom out with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pam. It's been fun.
Such a pleasure. And to all of you out there listening and watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing out, and lots of love going out to you now in the holidays and into the new year. And we will see you again soon.